We're with Argo Thompson, the artistic director of Ledft Theater, a new company that just opened up in California's esteemed Sonoma County. Like, man, you have just run the gamut of local theatrical experiences. You've been an actor, you've been an executive director of an organization, artistic director, you've worked with boards, you've worked as a director. I have seen your work. I think it's excellent across the board. There was that vintage year, John and I were calling it, our producer. I can't remember which one it was, maybe 98, 99. You guys were staging Angels in America at Actors Theater, and the theater downtown was doing Amadeus, and those were two real high points in local production, and the rest sort of trickled out from there, and they were almost as good. What happened? Is that when Sonoma County Theater peaked?
That's a great question. What happened?
Because I wrote about it. I was then writing for the Bohemian, and then I just didn't care anymore. So like something like,
yeah, you wrote, "This is what theater is meant to be," and we used that for years later as the little tagline. So thank you.
Well, yeah, no, you guys did awesome work.
There was a recession.
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
I guess 99.
Yeah.
2000. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had just written this great vision for the theater, and you got too big for our britches, and then there was a recession.
I'm not saying you guys fell down on it. I'm just saying that it just culturally it changed. Yeah,
it did. There was a shift.
Yeah.
Even though our houses were still sold out for years after that, we felt the strain from donations. It went down significantly. Yeah.
And then we just had another recession. So for my viewers, can you walk us through like where we left off there at Actors Theater and where you got to with Ledft? I know it's 15 years.
Sure. I'll try.
Yeah.
So around 2005, we merged with the Santa Rosa Players to form 6th Street Playhouse.
Okay.
All right.
Two totally distinct visions, though.
Completely different theaters. And interestingly enough, Actors Theater was a splinter from Santa Rosa Players 30 years ago.
Weird. Okay.
Right. So they wanted to do something that had never been done before. They wanted to do Nuts by Tom Topper. It was just Molly Boyce and Kathy Juarez. And they said, "Hey, board, Santa Rosa Players, why don't you let us do this?" And they're like, "That's not what we do."
Right.
So they've got an empty warehouse downtown in the Brickyard Center.
Right.
And I know this because I was in high school at the time. I was one of Kathy's students. And they figured if 50 people came per night, they'd break even. Mm-hmm. And the lines were around the corner.
Wow.
There was this appetite for new theater that had not been done in the county before.
Right.
And so they took 6 months to figure out what to do with the extra money and with now this inspiration, and they formed Actors Theater.
Wow.
Before that, they borrowed Actors Theater for Children's mail indie issue, the nonprofit stickers, so they could get the postage rate, and that's why they call themselves Actors Theater. So it's just like a little fluke.
I had no idea. That totally makes sense now. Wow.
Yeah. So flash forward, I come in, they had some artistic directors that took it away from that vision. They started doing things like Beauty and the Beast and some strange things, and it was like, that is not what Actors Theater is meant to do. That they lost their audience, they lost their company. So I came back in and knew instinctively what to do, because Kathy was my mentor and my teacher, and Molly, and it was just to get back to the roots and do things that had not been done in the county before.
Yeah, and those were great years. I saw a lot of those productions, and they're innovative. It was great material that had not been on local stages ever. You're all in the timing. David Ives' production was phenomenal.
Yeah,
I mean, phenomenal.
Loved doing it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like a really fun
show. It's
show.
like a harmonic convergence, when you're doing what you're passionate about and with people that are passionate about that, and an audience is hungry for that, and it just all clicked.
So the merger between Actors Theater and the Santa Rosa Players, so I understand what could precipitate that, but it just seems like there's a kind of a disconnect in vision.
Totally.
Okay.
Totally, and I think that's what led ultimately to me leaving the company, is that we'll just call it artistic differences.
Fair enough, yeah.
Yeah, they wanted to remain a company, community-based theater, and I wanted a professional theater company.
And there's two different markets. You can't slam those markets together,
That's right. Well, that's interesting, because that if we flash forward a little bit, we'll get back to that, how Ledft Theater started. So we created that studio series there at 6th Street Playhouse, so that the big main stage musicals could happen in one space, and the smaller black box, more intimate theater could happen in the studio. And when they canceled the studio series, I got my phone just going off the hook from past supporters saying, "Hey, what are you going to do?
And that
this
was
is
what
why
they-
we
yeah,
invested in
yeah.
you. This is why we invested in the 6th Street Playhouse, was this type of work, and now they're not doing it."
Right.
So I said, well, I can carry that mantle.
And that's what you've done.
That's what I did.
Okay, wow. And so when you're envisioning a theater company, right, having had all the experiences you've had, right, what have you learned that you're taking to the new one, and what have you learned that you're not taking to the new one?
Yeah, that's great. Well, I also had 7 jobs in 7 years, or 8 years, something crazy. Executive director, development director, marketing director. So I learned a lot from each of the executive directors, what to do and what not to do as well. But the easiest, keep it simple.
Right.
Really, streamline as much as humanly possible. And I have a formula. You get a really good story, you get the best actors you can find, and then you get April George to be your production manager.
Right.
And everything turns out okay.
But what if April George isn't available? I mean,
then you're
yeah.
it's over. Forget it. You're only going to be subpar.
When you are sourcing material, how do you discover it, and how do you know it's the one?
That is a really excellent question. I read a lot of plays.
I would imagine.
And I'm trying to read a play a week at least, and then now, like, we're trying to select our season right now for 2016, and I'm reading 3 or 4 a week.
Wow.
And
are you talking original works or works just from the library of?
Yeah, again, so Left Edge Theater looks for works that are written in the last 5 to 6 years that have never been produced in Sonoma County before.
Great.
So that really focuses. Then I try to find the best writers or the most emerging writers, ones with a voice that I connect to aesthetically. Right. I like theater that uses the form of theater in an innovative way, in a way that you haven't seen before, or in a way that I believe theater is powerful, that movies can't do.
Interesting. I wonder if you're competing with movies to some degree for audiences.
Well, sometimes, but I'm going to leave the special effects to the movies.
Right.
I'm going to leave the action sequences to the movies. Shakespeare, he knew how to do it. Bare stage.
Right.
Just an actor saying, "Here we are in the Forest of Arden." Like, boom, the audience is there. They can picture it themselves. Interestingly enough, we just did a play by Keith Huff, who's a writer from Mad Men, House of Cards. It's set in Chicago, 2 police officers, just 2 men telling this story. They were able to convey everything. It's like, well, we're on the beat. We're in our car. We're at this deviant corners, and they describe it. And originally, when I read it, I thought, oh, I'll just do projections. And then I realized over the course of rehearsals that that was a complete mistake.
Right.
And luckily, by the time we got to performances, I cut all the projections because it took away what the audience was going to imagine.
Right.
Like a book.
Yeah, and you respect the audience that way.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
We're with Argo Thompson, the artistic director of Left Edge Theater. We'll be right back. We're back with Argo Thompson, the artistic director of Left Edge Theater. In the last segment, we're kind of talking about how you choose your material and how you bring that to the stage and the choices you make aesthetically, which I think it sounds like really wise choices, right? Respecting the audience and respecting the material. But you can't choose your bosses sometimes. And I know that you had an experience where that was very evident, and there was a divergent kind of perception, with both parties, I would assume, in terms of how you were going to work together.
Right. Sure.
Marin Arts Council.
Okay.
Right. Let's canvas that experience and then productively and talk about what the takeaway was that you're using now. So I can use this with my own board.
Oh, okay. Well, I think it's important to have a vision as an executive director or an artistic director.
I better write this down.
Vision. I'm sure you've got one. But it's also important to bring your board into that vision and have it be shared. And I think at the Marin Arts Council experience was that I had a board that was very committed to that vision, but the way that their bylaws were written, there was a company there, and most of them were visual artists.
Right.
And my vision was very collaborative with the performing arts as well.
Which is probably one of the reasons they would hire somebody like you with that kind of experience.
It was one of the reasons why they hired me, was to bring that all under the Marin Arts umbrella. It wasn't just visual arts.
And totally makes sense.
But they forgot to tell that their main constituent, who were all visual artists, that thought that they were being lessened somehow instead of inclusive.
They're used to the privilege of being top dog. And,
Which is fine. You know, it's sad that it worked out the way it did, and yet the takeaway was more communication, more inclusivity, more transparency. Bring people in who are the investors in this company right away.
Right.
Whether that's the company members or the donors or the board, just having that open dialogue about where are we going right now? But why are we doing what we're doing?
And I get that that's part of the job, but doesn't that pull you away from the other activities that you're supposed to manifest? I mean, how do you do it all?
I don't know how you do it all. You just do. You know, you're there and you're in that moment.
The way you've organized Left Edge, I would imagine, is mightily different.
Yeah, it's very streamlined.
Okay.
Completely streamlined.
And you're the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's my company.
Yeah.
So I'm not beholden to a board, but I am beholden to a bottom line.
Right.
Because I only have so much in savings.
right. But okay, so there's this interesting part of your career, though, you know, where you can call them the lost years, where you're working with these different companies and all that, and you're trying to manifest a vision, and it seems like, narratively speaking, you finally realize you have to manifest your own vision.
Yeah, I can thank my wife too.
Yeah.
My new wife, Tara Thompson. She said, "Why aren't you doing what you love?"
Right.
I had forgotten what I loved. It was part of the reason.
How did you forget, though? I mean, were you seduced by the sort of participating in the sort of infrastructure of being?
I guess I was good at the organizational part of it. I was good at the fundraising element of it, and so there weren't any artistic director jobs available.
Right.
But there were executive director jobs, and there were development director and marketing director jobs available.
It's interesting. It's almost like a victim of your own competency, because you can do so much, but yet you're also, I think, at the core, an artist.
Right.
And so you have this outside shell that's really productive and can, you know, engage and tap into that kind of energy. But it seems like maybe it's sometimes at the cost of the artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, how did you?
Definitely.
So your wife pointed out that you weren't doing what you loved.
Yes.
So what transpired after that? How did you?
I took a little while to figure out and remember what it is that I loved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there a moment, like in a theater, you know, where you realized, in the motion picture version of your life?
I wish that there was just a moment. It was kind of a slow awakening, not a sudden enlightenment. Yeah.
And it's different now that we're all older. I think there's a self-confidence that comes with our age, and a maturity certainly, but also a decisiveness. You can just decide to create your world now.
Yeah, it feels like we're at the prime of our lives, right? We have enough experience that we can do things simply, and yet we still have enough energy that we can be passionate about it.
It's funny, I was thinking almost the exact same thought a couple of days ago, you know, except for the energy part. I am exhausted. but you're right, I feel, well, we were sort of we were at this place where, you know, our powers were finally manifest.
Right.
I never thought it would be at this old, though. You know, do you have enough time to accomplish what you want? Yeah,
amazingly enough, the more that I focus on the art, the slower the time goes.
Right. That's a good observation.
Yeah.
So what can we expect from Left Edge?
What's coming up?
Well, not just in terms of the calendar, but like vision.
Yeah,
like
vision.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. We're still finding, I think, our audience. Mm-hmm. Some people who are very devoted to Actors Theater are there, and every show it gains some more people.
So you were able to bring back in some of the greatest hits, like some of the old-time guys from the scene, or
that's
absolutely.
Great. Yeah, some of the actors and yeah.
That's cool.
Kimberly Callenber was in the first. Peter Downey, you know, Carlos Bint. Yeah.
Do you feel like you're getting the band back together? Is it that kind of vibe?
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. That's exactly how it is. We're at the party and hey, remember when we were young.
And are you in the original spot that Actors Theater was in?
No.
Okay.
So we perform in a couple places.
Okay.
We have a rehearsal room there.
At Wells Fargo.
Yeah. That we do a couple shows, stage readings, and like our season showcase that's coming up, we're going to do there. Mm-hmm. But we mainly use the Carson Cabaret, which when we were there used to be a chapel.
Okay,
with pews in it. Well, they've totally redone it. It's beautiful.
That's great.
Yeah, and it still feels intimate with 99 seats.
Wow. Yeah. So going back to like how you're putting your schedule together, and the fact that you're reading up to 3 plays a week, trying to source new stuff, and you've got this very distinct rubric, plays written within the last 5 years, which is always a moving target, which is pretty cool, and never before performed in Sonoma County, which is, you know, there's a lot of theater going on, so it's you know, where are these plays coming from? Is there some sort of mammoth like online database of
No, the internet is fantastic though, because I can really narrow down on Lucille award winners, Gluckman Awards, and find the writers that are really
you can literally filter
tearing it up.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
as well as who won the Tonys, who were nominated for Tony,
Right.
So yeah.
What about local works? You working with locals?
I haven't found the local playwright yet. There is one proposed for next year. We'll see how that goes. But
that was always kind of a hiccup in my perception of the scene, that there was a lot of great acting talent, certainly great productions and directors, but there was a sort of dearth of original material being developed. Why is that, do you think?
I don't know if that's necessarily true. We had the Quickies Festival. Do you remember when we did the Quickies? There was 4 years there where we did all original plays, and they had to be by California playwrights.
Oh, really? Okay, well, forgive me for being naive.
Yeah,
okay,
that's okay.
Yeah.
And so there was a great, I mean, one year we had like 100 submissions.
Wow.
And we had to really up our play reading committee and get it down to.
Okay, well, let me reframe the question then.
Sure.
And we'll come back to it, I think, in the next segment. But basically, obviously I was wrong. There's a lot of playwrights. Why aren't there a lot of local productions? So we'll come back to that with Argo Thompson here from the artistic director of Left Edge Theater. We'll be right back. And we're back with Argo Thompson, the artistic director of Left Edge Theater. We left off talking about what I perceived was a dearth of local production. Apparently there is the talent here writing, but we're not seeing those shows, and I'm wondering, what is the reticence on the part of local theater companies?
All right.
And I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm just saying.
It's okay, I can take some blame in this. My perception of this is that a new play requires a lot of work.
Fair enough. On the page, it has to go through various iterations and workshopping for a very long time with a lot of resources.
There's a lot of investment, and there's a lot of risk too.
Right.
Because it's not a name.
Not usually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that it? Is that the reason?
I think that's the reason, because that's really 3 to 5 years of workshopping it.
Really? 3 to 5 years?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I've never produced a play, so I have no idea. Wow.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So, we're American, and we think anything can happen like this.
Yeah.
So when I was at the North Carolina School of the Arts, we had an exchange with the Moscow Art Theater, and they came to our country for 1 semester, and then we went to their country for 1 semester.
Right on, yeah.
And it was evident in their training. They were like, this is a new technique. And we're like, oh, great. What does that mean? Developed in the last 15 years.
Oh my God.
They had 9 months to rehearse a play. And these are plays that they all know. It's in their repertoire. Check off. Not a new play. That's like a standard. They get 9 months to rehearse it.
Wow.
Here we're lucky if we have 3 weeks to rehearse a play. And we're lucky if it can run more than 3 weekends. So to invest that money and time into a new play that's never been tried out before.
Right.
Even when they do this in Chicago or London or wherever, that plays on trial.
Right.
It's going on 6-week, 8-week, 12-week tours outside of the cities before they hone it down, and they have the money to pour into this.
Right.
Right. Here, local theaters, we're lucky if our budget is $10,000 or $20,000 to put on one play.
Wow.
So, and that's because we have that 6-week period, 3 weeks of rehearsal and 3 weeks of performances. So, imagine if you're talking about 3 years, we'd need $1 million.
That's crazy.
So.
I had no idea. I really
That's my perception of why.
I'm sure it's right on. And it brings me to like the numbers you're talking about, like 10, 20 grand for a play. To me, that's an indie film. Why did you do theater and not film?
That's a really great question.
I mean, you're capable. You could try.
I wouldn't mind trying to make a film, and maybe one day I will. But I love the medium of theater because I like the live audience. Mm-hmm. I like that final ingredient and how it changes everything.
Right. Yeah, it's like walking on the frozen lake. You're gonna fall. You could fall through. Right. Yeah. Are you sort of like a risk junkie? Yeah. I was gonna say yeah.
No, but I do ride that energy from an audience. I'll go back to North Carolina School of the Arts. It was very obviously informative, and there was a moment in class when 2 actors were just doing an improv,
right,
and you could actually feel the temperature in the room go down.
Interesting.
By just the power of focus between the 2 people and the audience, all experiencing this one moment in time together, real. Because we know that anything can happen.
Right.
It wasn't scripted. They were making it up.
That's great.
It wasn't recorded for posterity and then put in front of us while we eat popcorn or what. I'm not trying to denigrate movie going. I love movies.
But you've made evident one of the dramatic differences, and is that live factor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so obvious, but we forget the energy that it happens in a room with live theater. Yeah.
Yeah, and every night's going to be different.
Yeah.
So one of my references is going to come from a movie, but when Brando and On the Waterfront, she dropped her glove, and he picked it up, and they tell the story, you know, the behind the scenes thing is like Kazan's going, let it roll, and she's looking like, really? And so he picks up the glove and he's holding it and touching it. It's like they didn't rehearse that just happened, and the director was smart enough to go, bless the gods for giving me this.
Right.
And it went with it. And I tell my actors every night, the theater gods are going to give you something that you're not going to expect, and you got to take it. Curveball, fastball, whatever it is, and just make it your own, that moment. And the audience appreciates it. One of the funniest things I ever saw, I was in grade school at the time, Fiddler on the Roof, I won't mention what company it was, on a raked stage, and this pipe falls over, stovepipe, right? Hits in the head, the lady is cooking, and rolls then down into the audience. It's a sauna tube, it's like cardboard, right? No one said a word. They were just frozen. And I was, this is so wrong. What is going on?
Right.
And so, and then one of my favorite moments on stage, I saw Guys and Dolls where the Nicely was a really skinny guy and eating all the time, and somebody knocked his sandwich out of his hand on accident, and he was like, my sandwich! And that's all it took, is for him to recognize in the moment what was actually happening and not just stick to the script.
Right.
And so the two are really, in my mind, a contrast between success and failure. It's just to be open to that live theater and not worry about what you rehearsed before. You have enough of the checkpoints to go, and you have to really talk with one another, and then the audience picks up on that energy, and they're part of it, because the observe informs the observer.
They're complicit. It's amazing. I wonder then, this leads inevitably to, what is the worst case scenario that's happened to you on stage? You know, in that context.
Oh my God. Okay, so Fully Committed. I don't know if you're familiar with the show.
I am.
So one-man play plays 39, 40 characters. They're all calling in. And the phone rings, and I'm supposed to become the person that's calling, and I have no idea who's on the other end of the line.
You just blanked?
Dude, gone. Gone. And I'm like, so I go, pizza dude. It's not a character that's in the play. I make up another character to try to signal to the stage manager to stop ringing the phone, because I have no idea where I am, right? So I'm like, I'm sorry, you have the wrong number, and I hang up. And she calls right back in, ringing, and I still don't know who it is. I'm like, hello? It's like, pizza dude. Still, dude, you have the wrong number. And then I started vamping, because I realized she's just going to ring it as soon as I hang up. I have to figure out who's calling next. And finally it came to me. But it felt like 2 hours. And I'm sure it was 20 seconds at the most, maybe 5.
Does time stand still for you? Like, as a performer?
Yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned earlier how you know, really committing to your art and all that has helped slow down your perception of time, and kind of, you know, being a performer. Do you still regard yourself as a performer?
No.
Really?
No, more of a producer.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Is that just sort of a natural evolution, or?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, that performers, when I'm a performer, I won't, it's a stereotype, but when I'm a performer, I become very narcissistic, more so than I am as a producer. And it seems that I can only focus on what I'm doing right in that moment. Whereas when I'm a producer, I'm kind of seeing the bigger picture, and I can more easily connect with other people and hear what they're going through.
Right, and see the, yeah, cool.
So I don't like what becomes of me when I'm an actor in a play.
But you're a hell of a theater guy.
Thank
so
you.
yeah, well done. Hey, Argo Thompson of Left Edge Theater, I hope you come back, and we'll pick up and continue this conversation as your company grows. Yeah,
Thank
good to see
you very
you.
much.
Thanks for coming in.
Yes.
Argo Thompson from Left Edge Theater here on 7 to 7. Check it out on youtube.com/CMedia Labs.